I'm Dr. Richard Pineda, the chair of the Department of Communication at the University of Texas at El Paso and friend of the Chamber. It's a pleasure to be with you all this afternoon. The Chamber is pleased to co-host today's event, the Black Wall Street Showcase, establishing a startup. The El Paso Chamber is, of course, the premier hub for connecting, coaching, advocating, and innovating for business in El Paso. And as part of the initiatives that the Chamber has launched over the course of the last 2 years, small business has stayed one of the Chamber's primary focus. And in an attempt to not only reach out to new businesses and businesses that are new to El Paso, the Chamber has partnered with a number of different organizations to talk to folks about how they have done what they are doing. So we're pleased today to be joined by the El Paso Young Black Leaders and my co-moderator, Jason Chambers. Jason?
Hey, good afternoon, Dr. Pineda and all the panel members today. My name is Jason Chambers. I'm the Business Development Chair for El Paso Young Black Leaders. Glad to be here today. Glad to be a part of this discussion, a very important discussion that we're going to have. Definitely affects the business community here in El Paso. A little bit of background on me, retired military, retired Army instructor pilot. Been in El Paso now for about 6 years. Small business owner, real estate investor, mentor to a certain degree. And been a part of El Paso Young Black Leaders since its inception about 2 years ago. I've worked with Dr. Pineda in the past and various other discussions, specifically a panel discussion we had last year about developing and bringing Black professionals to El Paso. So today, like Dr. Pineda said, we're going to talk about what it takes to establish a startup here in El Paso. And so glad to have the panel members here today. Welcome, everyone. And we'll give everyone an opportunity to go ahead and introduce themselves. So Dominique, you want to start?
Sure. First and foremost, I want to say thank you guys for inviting us here. I want to definitely thank the El Paso Chamber and also the El Paso Young Black Leaders. This is a great opportunity. My name is Dominique Jones. I will be speaking on today one of my businesses in the Jones Initiative, which is a transportation and appliance installation startup that I've been running for the past 5 or 6 years now.
Great, welcome. And we have Charquevia Mobley. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Charlie.
Hello, I'm Charquevia Mobley. I'm the owner of Charlie Hair Gallery in El Paso. I started the business 3 years ago. I'm also a member of El Paso Young Black Leaders. I'm the community outreach chair. I'm also a soldier, as you can see right now. I'm away for training. And thank you for having me.
Excellent, excellent. And our final panel member, if we can have Rihanna Henderson, go ahead and introduce yourself. Thanks for coming today.
Yes, thank you for having me today. My name is Rihanna Henderson. I am the owner and director of Mayu Mental Athletic and Academic Development. I pretty much moved here to El Paso 4.5 years ago, where I started to develop or seek more opportunities of how I can incorporate my services. So I pretty much help athletes in the community increase their mental toughness.
That's awesome, really awesome. Thanks everybody again for being here today. So I'll turn it back over to our communications expert, Dr. Pineda. We'll go ahead and get the discussion going.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, as Jason said, the Chamber has hosted now 2 discussions previous to this with El Paso Young Black Leaders. And the interest is twofold. The first is anytime you've got entrepreneurs that are in the process of starting a business, or in the case of some of these businesses have been running for several years, there's always a number of questions that people in the audience will want to know about. Questions about how you got the capital and where you got the idea. And we'll definitely dive into some of those. But one of the other things that we found was really important about the conversation previous to this was also to talk about some of the opportunities and challenges that are unique to El Paso. And I think that a lot of that and part of the sense in that conversation is talking about what complications or what opportunities exist being a minority business owner, and in this particular case being a Black owner, and what opportunities or challenges may be unique to the process, and especially given that folks may not be from El Paso originally. So as you come in, what your perceptions are as we go forward. A reminder with the conversation, we do have the chat window open, and you are more than welcome to throw a question into the chat. Jason and I will see it, and we'll feed it into the panelists. And of course, we're hoping that we can get a rotation of each of the panelists to talk a little bit about their businesses. So you got a snapshot. Rihanna, let me start with you, and this is a question for all three of the panelists. And actually, Jason, I'd love to hear your insight, because I think your business perspective is really pretty fascinating. Rihanna, what was it that inspired you to move into this particular space? Because it's definitely unique, the idea of offering the kind of mental training for athletes in particular. So tell us a little bit about how you got into this particular space, and then more importantly, how did you figure out how to monetize this? I mean, how did you figure out what the dollars and cents side of this equation was going to be like?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. When we're talking about mental toughness, it's coming from a field, in a disciplinary field of sports psychology. So going through the educational system, I knew I wanted to do psychology. I got a lot of feedback of people saying, you just know people, you understand me. However, in my family, the Henderson legacy, we're a sport-oriented family. So we have a lot of background successes in sports. And that was something that I wanted to include. But then when I got to my junior year as an undergraduate, I discovered there's a field called sports psychology. And by then I was sold. I didn't need to get any more questions. I just knew that was something that I wanted to do. But when it came to sports psychology or mental toughness, it's a growing field. A lot of people don't really know about the disciplinary of sports psychology. So I went into this with an optimistic mindset that hopefully I can have a career, or, you know, I'll get paid top dollars, but not knowing that looking in the future, there's not a lot of opportunities within that field. So at that point, it was like, well, create your own opportunities. And that's what I had to do right after I graduated with my master's in sports psychology.
Dominic, how did you get into, because you had already been working in another business line, and this is a fairly big transition. So how did you get into this space, and how did you figure out that you could monetize that space?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I just want to give a shout out to the Murillo family, particularly David Murillo, Mondo Murillo, and Mike Murillo. They were the people that basically took me under their wing and allowed me to, you know, basically pick their brains and learn in this field. When I got into appliance installation, it really wasn't nothing more than me just kind of looking for something, you know, another job, something to bootstrap my startup with my clothing line or anything else that I was trying to get into. So, you know, I really did not have any intention of it, you know, like getting as big as it did, and then ending up opening up my own LLCs and whatnot, and getting different contracts. But I mean, it kind of appliances kind of speaks for itself. You know, people need a washer, dryer, a stove, a fridge, and they need people to put that stuff in and to do it right, and to make sure that, you know, things are going accordingly without, you know, damaging your homes and different things like that. So it really, you know, became big picture once I was, you know, really sitting in the rooms with Cunningham Distributing and Classic American and Saratoga Homes, and, you know, seeing the scale at which we could really, you know, impact and expand and, you know, install in these newer homes. And then I was quickly segued and introduced to Daryl Flood, which was a contracting company that I got in with for GE and Home Depot. So I mean, I've done everything from you know, a small hood in an apartment to you know, a residential home to commercial buildings. You know, it's been pretty. The money has been there, of course, you know, so it's not nothing I had to really go search for, as long as you're willing to work hard and you know, learn the skill of installation and whatnot, then that's where it really evolved from.
Okay. So Charquevia, how did you get into Charlie hair?
Well, I grew up around a lot of hairstylists. There was a salon right up the street from my house, and I always liked to go get my hair done when I was a kid. I always liked seeing women go inside the salons. coming in with so much baggage on them, but then walking out without a care in the world because they feel, you know, beautiful and better about themselves. My mom used to do hair on the side. She never fully did it, but she used to do it on the side. So it was always like oversaturated in my life.
Interesting. And Jason, a little bit about how you, because you sort of carry a portfolio, which is different in that sense, with a couple of different pots that are boiling. Walk us through that, and then after that, take the second question for the panel. I think you're on mute.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I'm back on now.
There we go.
Yeah, so I started investing back in 2011. It was a crazy balance of investing in real estate, trying to run a business full time, and also still being active in the military. So I started my investing in Hawaii when I was stationed out there, and then continued once I got to El Paso. You know, I learned a lot about the real estate business here in El Paso as opposed to some other areas, simply because of, you know, the small town feel that we have here in El Paso. It's very, this is one of those towns where you can get fully immersed in business, make a great network, you know, have initiatives like these that we're dealing with right now today that allow you to get your name out there and make the connections you need to be successful. It's been a great place. I've been more successful here in El Paso than anywhere else. It's been an amazing time. And but as far as my business and real estate is concerned, this is a great place to do business. I've expanded my business so much since I've been here. Even while I was on active duty, I've expanded it even more now that I'm out, now that I've been retired for the last year. And you know, it's going to continue. No matter where I'm at, I think no matter where I go, what I do, I'll always have a connection to El Paso. And you know, as of now, you know, we plan to stay. We've been here even though I'm retired. So my journey into real estate and business is definitely grown since I've been here, because I think there's a foundation and a lot of times a low barrier to entry to be successful here. So we'll move on to the next question here. So Rihanna, so have you found more or less business opportunities in the El Paso community, as far as like how receptive people have been to your business idea and to your business now that you're established?
You know, to answer that question, coming from Los Angeles, so I'm born and raised from Los Angeles, specifically Carson. When you are used to a big city and there's a lot of competitors, and you know, the fast pace of the nature, the culture. When I moved 4.5 years ago here to El Paso, I wasn't quite sure where I fit in, especially being an African-American woman of color, trying to continue to promote my services in a male-dominant field. And yet we're in a city, smaller city, where sports isn't as popularized as Los Angeles. And so what ended up happening was I ended up getting a lot of support, more than what I actually thought I would get. Because El Paso, like you said, there's so much room for growth. Because it's a little bit more slower to Los Angeles, it allowed me and my business to flourish in a way where I'm opening up new doors and ideas to the community. So maybe some things that parents, coaches, or athletes wasn't informed of or wasn't used to, now my services offer an opportunity for them to explore more services that's out there that other cities, other states are offering athletes, coaches, and parents compared to El Paso. And when you think about El Paso, it's one of those cities where I stop in and I leave. But for me to be here for, you know, 4.5 years to really land my mark here in terms of how can I make a huge impact in the athletic community. So it's not just the 4-star recruits. It's not just those athletes that are really flourishing in their sport, but it can also help for those athletes who are just want to get better. I just want to stay on the team. And even though the athletes here may not be as competitive as you see in certain areas, I still found ways to continue to help build the athletes, either motivation, their confidence. And I have been getting nothing but love here in El Paso.
It's definitely a great place to do business. I totally agree with all that. How about you, Charlie? How receptive has the community been to your business and the opportunities that you found here?
Very. It's like you said one time, being Black in El Paso is like having a superpower. So it's like we're 3.8% of the population. So of course, a lot of Black women are looking for a hairstylist. So it's plenty potential for me to get like clients. Also, we have Fort Bliss, the military base, another, gateway for me to get more clientele. And not only that, with the military base being here now, I can, join forces and become a contractor. And now I can, also sell wigs to veterans, not only, active duty soldiers.
Right. And then, so Dominic, obviously you're well immersed in, especially the larger builders out here in El Paso. Like, how receptive was that industry to your business, and what was like the barrier to entry to get in there, and the opportunities that you found?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say that I definitely had a leg up in that regard, just because I had mentorship when it came to, basically kind of taking over on those contracts and whatnot. I would say really another issue is kind of really getting bigger contracts, within the city, going direct, trying to get rid of the middle guy and just be a small business or a business owner that can, speak to, for lack of better words, speak to the big dogs, you know what I mean, up front. So I would definitely say, I mean, the city has definitely been very receptive as far as when it comes to the appliances and whatnot, and the installation side of it. It was until recent with COVID-19 and whatnot, having an effect on business and kind of slowing down some of the other things that I had going on, that I started to really now more so look for more opportunities and work with, more realtors, more, home investors and things like that here in this space. But I definitely see that would be coming to fruition soon.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. It's something I've found out, and I tell people all the time, like, just like Rihanna, I grew up in Los Angeles, far west side of LA in Venice. And, in LA, I can't reach out and touch people the way that I can here in El Paso. I mean, I mentioned earlier about, El Paso is a big city with a small town feel, and like the network is so strong here. Like, you can get plugged in so easily if you have integrity and professionalism and you're doing the right things. Like, sometimes it's crazy how many opportunities come your way here in El Paso. So I'll turn it back over to Dr. Pineda if he wants to continue with the conversation.
So I'm curious about this, because I think one of the things that's instructive for both chamber members and also the folks that are watching this at home, you all are business owners, and one of the hardest leaps, I think, for an individual is to decide to turn whatever their skill set is into an enterprise, and that idea of saying, okay, I'm gonna do something. It is always complicated. It definitely comes with, I think, some extra weight. When you look at the research, Harvard Business Review has pointed out that minority-owned businesses oftentimes have a challenge getting capital to start with. And some of that is tied to social conditions. Some of that is just tied to a lack of understanding of how to take a pot of seed money. So if you're willing to share, the broad question essentially is this: how did you think about starting? I mean, how did you think about that bit of capital that you needed, whether it was to print business cards, or if it was to get an office, or if it was to lease a van, or if it's to have equipment? I mean, how did you think about that? And then would you be willing to share what has been the hardest lesson learned as a business owner? And that doesn't have to be super specific, but I think it's always helpful for people to kind of hear, like, this is the mistake I made, or this is the challenge I had. Don't do this, or maybe think a little bit more about this the next time. Charlie, do you have any insight into the ideas there, like both just this idea of like, okay, I need to buy equipment to do hair, and maybe a lesson that you learned in that process?
Yes, sir. A lesson that I learned is that, like, the money that I make is not necessarily my money. I have to put it back into the business until I, see a big profit. And I had a problem with that in the beginning, because as I was getting the money, I was spending it. I was paying bills, and I kept basically hustling instead of turning it into a legitimate business. But after I sat down with the SBA, and they gave me like a business plan, then I got an LLC. I got a line of credit in my business name, and now I've been using like the business money for the business.
Dominic, what insight do you? I mean, you talked a little bit already about mentoring, so clearly folks were able to kind of give you some insight. Was that helpful in that capital process, or was that a space where you're kind of on your own?
Yeah, so the mentorship was more so in, acquiring the skills to be able to, actually perform the task and to, do the job. How does this run the day to day, whatnot, but not really the background of that. So when I was faced with some of my, contracts, opportunities, that was stuff that I definitely had to figure out on my own. And I mean, I guess I'm not necessarily, well, in a space, I guess, to compare this to like to hair. Um, I didn't, there wasn't a whole lot of overhead that I had, because it was just kind of like, you need a dishwasher installed, it's this amount, and this is what, this is how it gets, put down. So it's really my services and not really a product that I was having to sell. But I will say that I did not have any knowledge on, finding more capital and basically scaling my ideas and my vision much bigger until I had met with, well, I have known Jamil Toombs. He's part of the El Paso Young Black Leaders Chair. He's a chair member there. And it wasn't until recently that, we started to sit down and really, kind of hash out like, well, this is what you should be doing and how you could do it a lot better and whatnot. And so now a lot of the bigger ideas and things that I have seen for myself and here in this region, in this city, seem a lot more plausible and more achievable at this point in time.
Rihanna, how did you deal with some of those issues, and were there some tough lessons as you started to turn this into a business?
So part of my field is going into the consulting aspect of what I do. So consulting with either athletes, consulting with coaches, or even parents. Some of the things that I started to face a little early in my career of developing my private practice was knowing my worth. And so the amount of time that I invested into my private practice, into consulting, it really didn't match up or wasn't congruent with the benefits or with the outcome or the results. And so that put a damper on my motivation, because I know my worth, but I'm not seeing the value. I didn't think I was being valued in the essence where I can compete with, individuals who's been in the game longer than me, or individuals who have doctoral degrees, where we talk about the same thing, the approaches could be different, but knowing what I bring to the table and my uniqueness to the table and what my private practice resembles, or the mission that I provide for my clients. And I think that was something that I had to struggle with, being able to own my worth and know that, hey, okay, yes, I am African-American female, but that doesn't mean I am less knowledgeable in basketball, in soccer, in hockey, where I could still contribute just as much as my counterparts. And yet I've learned to not try to act like I know it all. And that's where my approach, I've learned that, treating individuals, hey, you are the expert of your own life. You're the expert in your sport. I'm just here to help guide you the best way I can as a consultant. And I realized that approaching things that way, I've got a little bit more success in the community, or even rapport that I have with consulting.
Jason, same question to you, and I'm especially curious because real estate, oftentimes real estate is framed as the quick buck scheme, right? I mean, there's all these courses you can take, and it's something that people talk about, right. And it's made to seem super easy. Like, all you got to get into this, you're going to start churning out cash, but not only do you have to start with capital, and you started in Hawaii, where real estate prices are sort of in a totally different sphere. So how did you get to the seed money stage? And then, I mean, I think Charlie's point is really well taken, which is, it's nice, all of a sudden you got money, but how do you sort of set this limit to say, okay, but this has got to go right back into the business, or otherwise this is like a one and done kind of a deal.
Right. Well, so when I first came to El Paso and I started investing out here, I was kind of doing everything in a vacuum. I didn't really have the network that I had now. Real estate is absolutely not a get rich quick scheme. Like, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes, you have to understand numbers, you have to be able to analyze deals. I see a lot of people that want to get into real estate because they go see these gurus and they think it's a piece of cake, and they lose a shirt on their back and then they hate real estate forever. Like, it's a great business to be in, but definitely one where you have to have the knowledge and obviously the financial backing. So back to what I said before. So yeah, it's kind of doing it in a vacuum, kind of using some of my own resources to tap in and purchase properties. And then as I started expanding my network, I realized that there's a lot of financial backing here in town, whether it's hard money, conventional lending on both the residential and the conventional side. And but a lot of it had to do with just getting immersed in the real estate network that exists here in El Paso, which is very, very strong. So as far as finding capital, once I built those connections, First Life Federal Credit Union, First Savings Bank, TFCU, that opened up all the doors, to the financial part of it, especially for some of these larger deals with these multifamilies that we've acquired over the years. And so really, it's all about the network. And like I said before, like you can reach out and touch people very easily here. The access is there. It's just a matter of understanding how to go about doing it and making the connections and making them solid. So that's kind of been my journey with it. Not easy, but definitely doable, and then considering that I was doing it while on active duty as well. I mean, I think it's a testament to how strong the business community is here and the opportunities that present themselves.
Right. Well, but that's also, I mean, for each of you, the truth of the matter is that each of you are the key equation to the puzzle, right? I mean, there's definitely money and definitely liquid capital, but I mean, if you don't have somebody that's got the gumption and the strategy to do this, I mean, this wouldn't be the panel that it is, right? So I think not to undersell the skills that you bring to the table. Jason, I'll turn it back over to you to move into the next question or perspective, or where you want to take us.
Okay. So I guess when we were first discussing the idea behind this discussion today, we kind of looked at businesses as kind of like a life cycle. Today we're talking more about the startup, but if the way I look at a business, regardless of what it is, it has a life cycle, it has a beginning and an end. So kind of cradle to the grave kind of scenario. So and anybody can answer this question. So if you look at it from that point of view, what's that journey been like for you here in El Paso in your business? Like, is there anything that you would do different, or is there any advice that you would give anyone who wanted to start a business here in El Paso? And anyone can answer, whoever wants to go.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and answer the question. And so you're asking about the just basically what advice we would give, right, to anybody that would be looking to starting here. Well, I would definitely say first and foremost, because I mean, even this is my third business. I have like other little small things going on. And I would definitely say that finding mentorship is key. Just like you're saying now, network here is not, it's not an illusion. You can find, you can get plugged in with people and find the people that are part of, or wanting similar goals or similar things that are willing to assist and help you. And I think mentorship is very key. You can't really, navigate, I mean, you could, you can essentially navigate a path and, get from the beginning to the end, but it'd be better if somebody could tell you, watch out for that hole right there, so I think that was something that was very key and definitely changed, my way of approaching things over these last couple years, and especially once this COVID-19 situation has occurred. Just looking for again, mentorship in the right places, and that'll just get you, connected to the right individuals that you need to be speaking to.
Rihanna, what's your take on business life cycles and the journey and the advice? Like, what would you have to share about that?
It's pretty much similar to what Dominique's saying. Just to add on, for any of those, I know. Coming from a big city, and you have the military here. A lot of families, they are traveling, they coming in, they stopping by. But for those small businesses, it's almost like it's a gym. El Paso, you have to think of it as like a gym where you have to find it, you have to search for it. So when you're talking about starting your small business or just a business in general, being able to go out and network and communicate with others in your community. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen, in my opinion. From coming from the big city, Los Angeles, everything's in your face. You're exposed to so many advertisers or advertisements. You're exposed to so many things, so many creativity ideas. And so it's just like, it just hits you. You just know. But here, it's almost where you have to go find it. And then if you don't find it, then it gives you an idea. Okay, maybe I want to try something new. And networking, connecting yourself with people, regardless of the circle or regardless of what they could bring, there's always someone that knows somebody. And so I think when it comes to those small businesses here in El Paso, you got to go out and you got to go find it. And if you already have it, so for me, my mental was already developed. It was already in the works when I left Los Angeles. So it didn't take me long to figure out the needs of El Paso. What does El Paso have and what does it not have? And if they did have some things, then how can I work around? How can I adjust to what they have, or just try to modify what I could bring to the table in addition to what El Paso already has? And quite frankly, El Paso didn't have a business like mine, which is unique to its own. So that gave me a lot of room to reach out to unified or independent school districts. It gave me a lot of room to reach out to parents or coaches or those small AAU teams to be like, hey, this is what I offer. Let's work together. Let's partner up so that we can help serve these athletes or coaches or parents.
And how about you, Charlie? What's your journey been like in starting up here in El Paso? What would you have done differently, or what advice would you give?
My journey has been smooth so far. Like you say, it's easy to, network and connect with people here. So that's been a plus with starting up a business. The advice I would give people is just like Rihanna just said, you got to find a market in El Paso. We all know El Paso don't need, another restaurant. So nobody should be putting a restaurant here. But, people need businesses like hers or Dominique. So you find that market and then you go from there. You also have to, get it out there. Like, I feel like a lot of stuff isn't promoted well, especially within the Black community here in El Paso. Like, I just found out about the guy that sells bow ties. I'm just finding out about Rihanna's business. I'm just finding out about Dominique's business. And it's just crazy that it's like that. But that's one of the problems that we face here in El Paso. So it's like we need some way to market our businesses better here in El Paso.
So that's actually... Oh,
I'm sorry, go ahead,
Jason. Well, I think
You got it.
I was going to say it's a good segue because we just got a question from the audience that I think touches on Charlie's point, and I think it'd be great to hear everybody's perspective on this, which is how, as a Black community, do you work to build up attention and interest for those business owners? Because I think this is both, I think, important in terms of just business networking. Every business needs a specific audience and needs interest. But I think this is a great question. If you're talking about a community that may be underrepresented, or a community that may not have some of the entrees to these bigger networks, what is it that you can do? Charlie's point is maybe it's marketing, but are there other things that you all see as being important? Are there other ways? Young Black Leaders obviously serves in some part of this to build this infrastructure, but where do you all see that? Maybe Jason, maybe to you, and then we can kind of go through.
Well, from my point of view, as far as visibility, we talked a lot about that with El Paso Young Black Leaders. Being visible in the community, being a part of the community, having a seat at the table, having these discussions, getting plugged into the community. I think, from my standpoint, I think having a platform like El Paso Young Black Leaders, or the work that we're doing with the chamber and the panel discussions that we've been having, is an excellent opportunity for business owners like everyone that's here today to get the word out. And I think too that sometimes, unfortunately, I think everybody kind of thinks that, well, all the Black folks are up in the Northeast, and that we only exist there. And that's not true. It's not true. We're all over the place. And again, we need to use the network. We need to bring everybody out of the woodworks, because nothing happens in a vacuum. Like, you got to get the word out. The platforms are there, the opportunities are there, and we should definitely take advantage of that.
Yeah, I'd like to add to what Jason Chambers was saying. I think that, just like this, with the El Paso Chamber, it's huge. It's important. I had no clue. If I would have known about the El Paso Chamber when I started my first business 6 years ago, then I definitely would be in a whole, different space right now. So, just being able to even be, connected with the El Paso Chamber led me to El Paso Young Black Leaders, and then led me to, funding at Northwestern Mutual, and led me to, a different opportunity over there. So I think it's important, for the chamber to be more involved, even from, I mean, I started my first business right out of high school with my partner. We're both right out of high school. So for them to be more visual, more out there, and telling, young people in general, other people in general, that, hey, we exist and we apply, we have all these different tools and things that you guys can utilize, is definitely important, for our growth and our connection here. Because like we've been speaking on, and like I have said, although I had the opportunity to have my mentor, everything else that I've done has literally been, just like, go to this guy's office, you know what I mean? Go talk to this person. And so it hasn't really been anything like, oh, I'm on TV, or, I'm been, selected or spotlighted or anything like that. This is kind of all the first time that anything like that has really occurred. So I mean, this is definitely a great first step in the right direction, and we're definitely moving forward with this. So I just think more exposure from the chamber, that people will know that these services and things exist.
Rihanna, you are, I mean, you talked a little bit about this idea of being in a very unique space, and unique in El Paso. Does it make a difference? I mean, in Los Angeles, you're talking about just scope, right? So it's enormous once you're, LA County, Orange County, San Bernardino. I mean, you're talking about this enormous scope, but you also have visible Black leadership, right? A Black mayor at one point, Black council people. How much do you find that you have to sort of reinvent the wheel in terms of the kind of network? I mean, your services, your performance enhancement is clearly important from young kids all the way to collegiate and professional athletes. But when you got to El Paso, I mean, how much education to the consumer did you have to build up before you started to get repeat business, or that you were able to sort of build, some consistency in your business?
That's a great question. Because of the disconnect, I had to educate a lot. I had to constantly put myself out there, networking, where I'm just pretty much using platforms like this. And this is one of those things with even post-COVID, it kind of exposed a lot of individuals, especially for El Paso, because we couldn't really connect like we would personally, or, in person. So now we're looking for different platforms where we can still connect with businesses. And this is a great, like Dominique said, is an opportunity, because I as well didn't know about El Paso chambers, and being able to allow this type of platform to share more about either your business, or how to start a startup, or what challenges come into that. I don't think if probably prior to COVID, we would be at this space, but it took a lot of educating the community, providing flyers, pamphlets, in order for people to kind of lean in with the trust. Like, I'm not sure, this sounds too Hollywood. And it did take a while for that. And then when you start to hear, I like to believe that word of mouth is the fastest advertisement. And you hear a lot of parents, one, take that leap, try out the services, and then next you know it, you start to hear you're being referred from different people. And like we kind of mentioned, with the small community here in El Paso, everyone's connected in some shape or form. So now you have someone with a positive experience. Now they just connected you with someone else to say, hey, this person does awesome work, check him or her out. And that's exactly where part of my success became, where it was, I know this person, you might be a great fit, reach out to him or her, here's their number, and started to find connections that way. And, but it did take a while. I can't give an average, an estimate, but part of it is just sticking to, when you're facing those challenges, sticking to your overall big picture, your mission, your goal. What is it that you want to accomplish, your passion, because it's easy to lose sight of when you're constantly face roadblocks. When you're starting a small business, it's easy to get discouraged and lose motivation.
Charlie, the hair salon, and in particularly, I mean, you referenced this a little bit at the beginning, definitely a word of mouth kind of business, but also uniquely cultural business. How have you expanded? I mean, have you spent a lot of time trying to put out social media or marketing, or have you worked really well with the idea of just word of mouth connections?
Word of mouth is always good, but we live in an era where social media is everything. So I'm big on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. Also just making the business Googleable or searchable, if that makes sense. It has, people Google everything pretty much. So if I go to a city and I want to know like what restaurant sells pho soup, I just search it, see the reviews, and I go from there. So with all of us on here, like, we have to make our business searchable.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Jason, did you? I mean, in terms of the spot that you're in now, how much do you feel, because yours is a unique enterprise in the sense that you don't necessarily have people come to you, but I mean, how do you operate? I mean, are you scaling up at this point that you're buying either commercial retail properties, or you buy multiple residential at a time? And what's moving you into that space? And do you find a need in the same way to try to, you talked about the network, but to a certain extent, do you need to create sort of a presence?
No, yeah. So you absolutely need to create a presence. I have scaled up. I have expanded to larger multifamily properties, into commercial properties. I did my first $1 million deal here in El Paso.
Wow.
And that was amazing to me. That was some years ago, and it was mind-boggling. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of effort, but that was like my first step in realizing that the opportunity to scale is very, very important when you think about the life cycle of your business. And I don't know that I would have been able to do it to the scale that I have in a place like LA or New York or Austin, where the markets are really, I think they're pretty much burnt out at this point. But that's a discussion for another time. But no, I think though that again, the opportunity is here as far as scalability. The presence is actually very, very important. It is good to have a network, but I've taken it a step further, where so I started up a small real estate investing group, the Southwest Real Estate Collaborative, where I positioned myself as somewhat of an expert within that group, and through that group, it's actually funneled deals my way. So that's I guess similar to what you would do on social media, where you make yourself an expert in the space, and then deals start coming your way. You're able to expand. The word goes out, and larger and larger deals have come my way. And it's also given me the opportunity to help and mentor others. If you have that platform, if you have the opportunity for your reach to go out broadly, then at some point, somewhere along the way, you're going to be in a position where you should help. So that's another big part of what I do. Is I'm always really big about helping first, and it's all come from the ability to scale, to get the word out, and set up platforms that enable that.
Do you think, this is a great question, and I'll bounce back to you, Jason, and then we can hear from the panel on this. But one of the questions I think, especially for minority business owners, minority intellectuals, this sort of question of how much you feel obligated to reach back, right, and to create those sorts of opportunities. But what I also find to be the case is you also tend to be, in some cases, harder on the folks that look like you when it comes to advice, right? There's sometimes this sensibility of finding the middle ground to sort of giving instruction to do it, but then also sort of ratcheting up perhaps the standard or your sensibility about that. Do you find both of those things has that been an issue, or how do you think about those things, Jason? Is there a particular sensibility that you think, okay, African-American man, African-American woman, I really want to make sure that I can connect to them and provide this sort of insight? Or do you find yourself adding a different layer or maybe a different standard, like you should be able to do this, and I will stop at a certain point? I mean, how do you address that, or how do you think about that?
It's a really, really good question. It's one of those things that I mentor from time to time. I've helped quite a few people along the way, and that's definitely something that you keep in the back of your mind. Like how hard do you push someone? First you have to identify a person that has the motivation and the will to take the action, and then you have to hold them accountable. Accountability is a key. Whenever you reach back to help someone out, like I feel very strongly that if you learn something, you should teach it, because that's obviously going to help and sharpen your blade. That's going to help you improve if you're able to teach it. It doesn't matter what it is. I've spent many years as an instructor pilot, so I've kind of, I guess, proven that concept that for me to be better at my craft, I have to be able to teach it well. So yeah, as far as reaching back and as far as holding people accountable, I always have it in my mind that, of course, I want to help expand Black businesses. I want to identify, Black professionals and help them in any way I can. I mean, that was part of my involvement, or has been for the last couple of years with El Paso Young Black Leaders, and that was the entire idea behind it. Is that we exist, we're here, and so we should help one another. So always reaching back, especially when you make a path forward. And as far as like accountability and holding people to a stricter standard, I think I'm like that in general, maybe just because of my background being in the military. I think a very high level of professionalism is key to success anywhere. It doesn't matter what you look like. And the people that I keep around me, I don't know that I'm any harder on them than I would be anybody that I was mentoring when I was in the military. I think it's just kind of part of my character, I guess, to hold people to a high standard, because that's something, if you instill that in yourself and everything that you do in your professionalism, is going to come out in your reputation. Reputation is key. And it's something that you'll pass on to the people that you work with from then on.
Rihanna, I want to ask that same question, because I think you come to the table with a very unique insight as somebody who works with competitive athletes. And so there is sort of a psychological question here as well, right? So how much do you feel in your particular area that there is this need to reach back? And then do you find that psychologically there are ways in which you frame that kind of outreach, or you think, well, you need to do this better because you're going to be evaluated for being a minority, you're going to be evaluated for being a woman? Or do you see that advice and that kind of coaching is universal?
I've always been a firm believer of giving back to your community. That's always something that I had experienced in my community, coming up through a community college, went to Compton College, and they were a big factor of my development. And I can only imagine how it is for others who they're relying on their community to help build and develop them, mold them into a young professional when it comes to either starting their own business or branching out. So like I mentioned prior, 5 years ago, sports psychology didn't look like it did today. Mental health and athletes did not look like it did today. And part of COVID kind of put it on the fast pedal, where a lot of athletes coming out with the mental health, and you starting to see a lot of athletes coming out with, elaborating they're experiencing depression or their anxiety. So when I went into this field 5.5 years ago, it was just hopes and dreams that I would be able to land a job. And it wasn't like that for me. And a little bit of the things came easy for me in regards to building my own brand because of my sport background and my family. But I understand that may not be the case for a lot of other consultants under me, or a lot of consultants that are developing now. And I do make it my priority, whether it's social media, they reach out to me on social media and ask me questions to this day about, how do you become successful? How do you start a business? How do you get clients? Because now when you're talking about your private practice or consulting, you're doing it on your own. So you're trying to get your foot in the door to this coach to allow you to take 30 to 45 minutes of their practice time to teach them something that they can't. And so you're pretty much trying to sell yourself in a way that, hey, I come with techniques and skills and tools that you may not be an expert in, and now I need 20-30 minutes of your time. How do you build that rapport? And so I do get a lot of students or people who are interested in the field of like where to begin, where to start. And I definitely like to just share my experiences or share some tips that I found to be helpful and allow them to navigate their style. Because when we're talking about consulting, it's an art based on your personality, based on your style, based on the way you communicate. And for me to mentor someone or share information that it has to be this way because this is my way, that's, to me, I don't see myself ever doing that because we're all unique of its kind. And so I try to like to develop and bring that out of everyone's, or, you know, future consultant, find their own niche, because we all can know that it's very stressful, it's draining when you're trying to be somebody you're not. And so I allow that surface to come up where they get to explore who they are in regards to the field that they love near and dear.
Interesting. I'm going to jump real quick. Dominic and Charlie, this I think is, we've been actually getting quite a few COVID-19 questions, and I think this is a good question. I'd love to hear your perspectives. How have your businesses had to adjust to COVID-19? Charlie, we'll start with you, because I mean, I think this is a question that I'm super curious about. I mean, your physical proximity, you can't be, you know, 6 feet away from somebody to try to do their hair. So what have you done to deal with that and to adjust to that? And then Dominic, same question to you after Charlie.
Well, at first, my business was shut down because, of course, I'm performing services. But not only do I perform services, I also sell products. So once I stopped taking clients, I just started selling wigs, and I put a highlight on wigs. I'm telling everybody, like, hey, y'all can't get y'all hair done, but y'all could do a curbside pull up and get a wig. So I really wasn't affected too bad with COVID, honestly. I just had to, you know, adapt and overcome, like the Army teaches.
Dominic, how have you, most of your installs, are you doing installs in real time for homes where folks are already living, or are you largely doing pre-move-in installations?
Yeah, so when I had first started out, it was pre-move-in primarily, but then it quickly got into, you know, actively where, you know, people are living in their homes at the time when we're installing. Personally, that's what actually led me to kind of segue from my contract with Home Depot and GE, because I felt like we weren't getting the proper support and protection during the beginning of this crisis that we were involved in. So I just quickly you know, I wasn't nothing that was too out of the ordinary, but I just moved into transportation directly, and where, you know, I just have to pick up loads and drop loads, you know, interstate or, you know, through the intrastate. So that's really where I transitioned. I definitely would, you know, pick up I did have a couple of realtor buddies that, you know, we need a kitchen pack, and, you know, nobody's in the house. So you know, it's easy for me to go in there and do those things. But that was my segue from, you know, the whole installation thing, because I do own trucks and whatnot. And I was just like, you know, I can still pick up, you know, different things and move them around without having to come into close contact or jeopardize any of my subcontractors and employees that I had at the time.
Fantastic. Jason, we are almost at our hard stop. Any last words or pitch for El Paso Young Black Leaders, if we've got folks in the audience that haven't joined yet, or that are interested more in the organization?
Sorry about that. I was muted again. Yeah, so El Paso Young Black Leaders, you know, it's an opportunity to bring young Black professionals together. Although I don't necessarily fit the demographic. I'm the old guy in the group. I always joke with everyone, but it doesn't matter, young or old. You know, it's all a matter of mentality. But so yeah, if anybody's interested in finding out more about what we do, we're obviously here to support you know, Black business, Black professionals. You know, whatever resources that we have access to, obviously, is going to be a part of any membership that you have with El Paso Young Black Leaders. So if you have any questions or want to learn more, please reach out to us. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to have our monthly meetings like we were having pre-COVID, and panel discussions and other events of that sort. But you can reach out to us via social media, and we'd be more than happy to fill you in. And we definitely need more people involved. We talked about, you know, visibility and access, and that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to provide a platform to have more opportunity to do things like these. So El Paso Young Black Leaders in conjunction now with the El Paso Chamber. It's amazing, you know. So now, you know, the Chamber has been kind enough to share all their resources with us and also any other Black and minority businesses that are affiliated with us. So it's an excellent opportunity to get involved in your community and grow, you know, and be a part of this wonderful platform. So please reach out.
Fantastic. There are a couple of program announcements, but especially significant for folks that are watching today. The El Paso Chamber has a number of initiatives, some connected directly to the COVID-19 pandemic and the way the Chamber has decided to act in that space, but also some opportunities that are connected to the young Black leaders. So first, if you're interested, the Chamber is still offering free registration for Coursera. If you're not familiar with Coursera, they are online classes in a variety of different areas, but of significance to business owners. There are a number of classes that talk about finding and developing your business and also figuring out ways to market your business. So if you contact the Chamber, they can set you up with a registration packet for Coursera, and that is a really, really significant access point to information that normally would come with a substantial fee. The second thing, tied a little bit to the COVID-19 outbreak, but also the Chamber's participation with El Paso County and the city of El Paso, the Chamber is going to be offering free coaching through some of the CARES money that has been put into El Paso County. And that coaching is going to come in the form of business and one-on-one coaching. The Business Resource Center, which the El Paso Chamber has set up and has been maintaining, not only creates those coaching opportunities and puts folks interested in business, right, regardless of whether it's a small or medium enterprise, or even if you're part of a Fortune 500 company, they provide coaching and can set that up through the Chamber for you. And the last thing is the partnership with El Paso Young Black Leaders, something that the president and CEO, David Jerome, has been very, very pleased to reinvigorate. And as part of that commitment, the Chamber is offering a sponsorship for 2 Black-owned businesses to participate in the Quality Texas Certification Program. And that is another one of the programs that the Chamber has been working very closely with. Quality Texas, which is part of the big nationwide quality initiative, has a certification process. That process is something that will get you through not only the standards and standards required to receive that certification, but it is incredibly insightful. And so it's built around this idea that quality should be a hallmark of any enterprise or any business. Texas Quality in particular has worked very closely over the last year and a half with the El Paso Chamber. And so the opportunity that the Chamber has put on the table in connection with El Paso Young Black Leaders is sponsorship of two registrations for that certification program. And all this information is available both through the El Paso Chamber website at elpaso.org, and announcements are often made through the El Paso Chamber Facebook page, which you are on right now as you're watching our program. So on behalf of the president and CEO of the El Paso Chamber, David Jerome, it's been my pleasure to chat with you all this afternoon with Jason and Rihanna, Dominique and Charlie. Congratulations not only on the enterprises that you're a part of, but especially congratulations on being part of the El Paso business community and making El Paso not only thrive from the business perspective, but also bringing your perspective, your expertise, and also your part of the economy to El Paso. We certainly appreciate that. Thank you so much, and we appreciate you watching. Have a great afternoon.